The massive Veltar ship drifted through the cold darkness of space like a floating mountain of crystal and metal. Deep inside its glowing chambers, Commander Dexfer stood before a wall of screens that showed images from a small blue planet millions of miles away. His body was made of living crystal that sparkled under the ship's lights, and when he moved, tiny musical sounds rang through the air. "Sir, we have completed our scan of the third planet," said Science Officer Zilmoth, his crystal fingers dancing over the control panel. "The data is very interesting." Dexfer made a sound like breaking glass, which was how his people laughed. "Show me these creatures that think they rule a world." The screens came alive with moving pictures of Earth. Lions walked slowly across golden grass under a hot sun. Great white sharks cut through blue ocean water like living knives. Brown bears stood in rushing rivers, catching silver fish that jumped toward them. Eagles soared high above mountain peaks with wings spread wide. "Look at them," Dexfer said, his voice ringing like wind chimes. "Soft skin that tears easily. No hard shell to protect them. No poison claws or acid breath. How did such weak things survive so long?" Zilmoth pointed to another screen. "This species appears to be the dominant one, Commander. They call themselves humans." The display showed busy cities full of tall buildings, reaching toward the sky. Cars moved along gray roads like rivers of metal. Humans walked on streets, ran in parks, and worked in offices behind glass windows. They looked so small and fragile compared to the mighty Velthari. "Humans," Vec repeated, tasting the strange word. "They have no claws at all. Their teeth are tiny and flat. Their skin looks thinner than paper. Yet they seem to control the entire planet." "They make tools," Sir Zilmoth explained, showing images of human technology. "They build machines and weapons, but their bodies are the weakest we have seen on any world." Vexfer moved closer to the screens, his crystal form casting rainbow patterns on the walls. The Velthari had evolved on worlds where the gravity was so strong it could crush rocks into powder. Their bodies were living stone, harder than the strongest metal humans had ever made. They had conquered dozens of worlds across the galaxy, and no species had ever stood against them for long. "Show me their so-called predators again," Dexfer commanded. The screens filled with images of Earth's most dangerous animals. Lions roared and showed their sharp teeth. Tigers stalked through tall grass, with muscles moving under orange and black fur. Crocodiles waded in muddy water with jaws that could snap bones. Wolves ran in packs under the moonlight, hunting together, like gray shadows. "Fascinating," Zilmoth said, reading data from his instruments. "These predators hunt other creatures, but look how they do it. The lions sleep most of the day. The sharks must keep moving, or they die. The bears eat fish, and berries like children. Where is their efficiency? Where is their killer instinct?" Dexfer made more glass-breaking laughter sounds. "This is almost too easy. Our warriors are living weapons made of crystal and metal. Our ships can destroy mountains. Our shields can stop anything these soft creatures might throw at us." What about the humans, cities, and technology?" Zilmoth asked. "They have built impressive structures." "Child's play," Vexfer waved a crystal hand. "They still use primitive chemical rockets to barely escape their own gravity. They fight each other with simple metal projectiles. Their computers are slower than our basic thinking machines. This entire planet is like a zoo filled with interesting but harmless animals." The commander walked to the center of the chamber, where a large communication device waited. His crystal form began to glow brighter as he prepared to send a message across the vast distances of space to the Velthari homeworlds. "Attention, Colony Command," he began, his voice being recorded for transmission. "We have found a perfect world for easy expansion. The third planet of system designation Sol3 contains abundant resources and no meaningful resistance. The local life forms are carbon-based and extremely fragile. Military preparation will be minimal." He paused to look at the screens again, watching humans go about their daily lives, completely unaware that alien eyes were watching them from the darkness between stars. The dominant species shows signs of basic intelligence, but lacks any natural weapons or defenses, he continued. They have built simple tools and structures, but nothing that could threaten our forces. I recommend we begin colony ship deployment immediately. This will be our easiest conquest in generations. As the message shot through space toward the Velthari Empire, Dexford turned back to his officers with crystal eyes that sparkled with confidence. Begin detailed mapping of their major population centers, he ordered. Mark the areas with the most resources for mining operations, and prepare the zoo collection teams. The Empire's scientists will want samples of these curious creatures for study. Zilmuth nodded and began working at his station. How long until the colony fleet arrives, Commander? 6 months, Dexver replied, already dreaming of the glory this easy victory would bring him. 6 months, and that little blue zoo will belong to the Velthari Empire. Neither of them realized they had just made the greatest mistake in their species-long history. 6 months passed like a slow dream across the galaxy. Then the sky above Earth began to burn. The Velthari colony ships came down through the clouds, like massive falling rocks wrapped in fire. Each ship was the size of a small mountain, made of the same living crystal as their builders. They moved, slowly but with terrible purpose, their hulls glowing red-hot from pushing through Earth's thick air. Commander Dexver chose the Amazon rainforest for his first base. The jungle stretched green and endless in all directions, full of the kind of life his scientists wanted to study. The ships landed among the tall trees, crushing them flat and burning the ground black with their heat. Perfect, Dexver said as he stepped onto Earth's soil for the first time. His crystal feet left deep marks in the soft ground. Around him, his soldiers began setting up their equipment. Energy shields hummed to life, creating invisible walls around their landing zone. Digging machines started carving into the earth, looking for metals and minerals to send back home. The jungle did not welcome these new visitors. Within hours, Earth's predators came to investigate the strange sounds and lights. A jaguar, its spotted coat rippling with muscle, crept through the shadows toward the alien camp. Its yellow eyes locked onto one of the crystal soldiers patrolling the edge of the base. The big cat gathered its powerful legs beneath it and leaped through the air, claws extended and teeth bared. It struck the energy shield with a sound like thunder and bounced off, landing hard on the ground. The barrier had stopped it completely, leaving the soldier untouched behind the glowing wall. Fascinating, said Science Officer Zilmouth, recording everything. The local predators are even weaker than our scans suggested. An anaconda, thick as a tree trunk and longer than 3 men, slithered out of the muddy water. It wrapped itself around one of the Velthari soldiers, like a living rope, squeezing with enough force to crush steel. But the alien's crystal body did not bend or break. The snake might as well have been trying to squeeze a statue made of diamond. Remarkable, Dexver observed. Their strongest creatures cannot even damage our basic armor. But it was the first human attack that truly showed the aliens how little they understood. A squad of Brazilian soldiers had been watching from the jungle for 3 days. They came at night, moving carefully through the trees with painted faces and automatic rifles. When they opened fire, bullets struck the Velthari shields and crystal armor like rain hitting a window. Sir, one of the crystal soldiers reported, the dominant species is attempting to engage us with primitive projectiles. Dexver made his glass-breaking laugh sound, just as predicted. Record their behavior for the scientific data. They are probably defending their territory like any animal would. The human soldiers retreated into the dark jungle after their weapons proved useless. But they were not running away in fear. They were reporting back to their commanders with very important information. 2 kilometers away from the alien base, Captain Geo lay flat on her belly in the thick undergrowth. Her camouflage uniform made her almost invisible among the leaves and shadows. Through her high-powered scope, she watched every movement in the enemy camp. "Minho, are you seeing this?" she whispered into her radio headset. Sergeant Minho's voice crackled back from his position on the opposite side of the valley. "I count at least 50 of the crystal things, plus their machines. Their shields stopped everything the local forces threw at them." Geo adjusted her scope and focused on the alien commander. Vexfer stood tall in the center of the base, his crystal form reflecting the jungle sunlight like a living prism. He moved with the confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "Look how they stand," Geo said quietly. "No guards posted properly. No defensive positions prepared. They think this is already over. They stopped bullets like they were toys," Minho replied. "How are we supposed to fight things like that?" Through her scope, Geo watched the aliens setting up what looked like mining equipment. They were treating Earth like an empty planet, ready to be stripped of its resources. They saw humans as just another animal species, no more dangerous than the jaguars and snakes they had already defeated. "They have one big problem," Geo said, a cold smile spreading across her face. "They think they know what Earth's apex predator looks like." She shifted her scope to watch a group of Velthari soldiers examining some captured local wildlife. They moved in straight lines, following predictable patterns. Their technology was impressive, but their tactics were simple and rigid. "These things have probably conquered a dozen worlds," Minho's voice said in her earpiece. "But I bet they always fought the same way. Big ships, strong armor, energy weapons, straightforward battles. And they won because they were stronger." Geo finished his thought. "But strength is not the only way to hunt." She began taking detailed notes about everything she saw. Guard rotations, weak points in their perimeter, how their shields worked, how their soldiers moved. Information that would soon make its way to military commands around the world. "Minho, start pulling back to the rally point," she ordered. "We have enough data for now. Copy that. What do we tell command?" Geo took one last look at the aliens, who thought they had already won. "Tell them the enemy just showed us all their cards, and they have no idea what game they are really playing." The sun was just beginning to rise over the Amazon jungle when the first explosion shattered the morning quiet. Deep beneath the Velthari power station, Sergeant Jungkook pressed the detonator button and watched 3 days of careful work pay off in a single brilliant flash. The blast tore through the alien facility's main energy cables like a giant, invisible hand ripping them apart. Jungkook and his team had been living underground like moles for 72 hours. They had dug their tunnel one handful of dirt at a time, moving so slowly and quietly that the alien sensors never detected them. While the Velthari stood guard above, watching for attacks that might come from the jungle. The real threat had been growing beneath their feet. "Charges detonated successfully," Jungkook whispered into his radio as dirt rained down from the tunnel ceiling. "Half their power grid is down." At exactly the same moment, 2 kilometers away, Lieutenant Nayeon sat in front of a laptop computer hidden inside a hollowed-out tree trunk. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as lines of code scrolled down the screen. For the past week, she had been working day and night to understand how Velthari computers thought and communicated. "Virus uploaded," she reported quietly. "Their communication system is now ours." The virus she had created was like a digital disease spreading through the alien network. It made their computers show false information, fake warnings, and phantom enemies that did not exist. Velthari soldiers began seeing attack signals from directions where no humans were present. Their scanners reported threats that were not there while missing the real dangers that surrounded them. Inside the alien command center, chaos erupted like a kicked anthill. "Commander," shouted a crystal soldier, his voice ringing with panic. "Power systems failing across sectors 7 through 12. Commander Dexver spun around, his crystal body reflecting the flashing red emergency lights. "How is this possible?" Our sensors showed no approaching threats. Sir, communication array is reporting multiple attack signatures. Another soldier called out, but the locations make no sense. Some of these readings are showing enemies inside our own base. Science Officer Zilmoth stared at his instruments with growing confusion. The screens showed contradictory information that hurt his logical mind to process. Commander, these readings cannot be accurate. Our sensors indicate humans approaching from 12 different directions simultaneously, but visual confirmation shows empty jungle. What is happening? Dexver demanded, his crystalline form beginning to vibrate with something he had never felt before. Uncertainty. But the confusion was only the beginning of their problems. Captain Seokjin and his ranger team had been watching the alien base for weeks, learning every detail of how the enemy moved and fought. They had seen Valthari soldiers patrol the same routes every day at the same times. They had watched the Crystal Warriors follow rigid formations that never changed. Most importantly, they had been studying the energy weapons that lay scattered around the compound. During the night, while the aliens dealt with their power failures and computer problems, Seokshin's team moved like shadows through the camp. They took Valthari weapons from storage areas and guard posts, learning to use them through careful observation and quick thinking. These energy rifles are actually simple to operate, Seokjin whispered to his team through hand signals. Point, squeeze, and the crystal part glows before it fires. When the attack began, the Valthari faced something they had never encountered in all their conquests. Enemy soldiers appeared from hiding spots that should not have existed, using their own weapons against them with deadly accuracy. A crystal warrior turned toward what he thought was an empty section of jungle, only to find 3 human soldiers emerging from camouflaged positions just 10 meters away. The blue energy bolts from captured Valthari rifles struck him before he could raise his own weapon. Contact. Humans in Sector 4. The dying soldier managed to report before his crystal form cracked and went dark, but when reinforcements arrived at Sector 4, they found nothing but empty jungle. The human attackers had already melted back into the green shadows, moving to strike somewhere else. Sir, we have reports of enemy contact in Sectors 4, 7, 9, and 11, a communications officer reported to the increasingly frantic Vexfer. But when our forces arrive, the humans are gone. Gone where? Vexper screamed, his voice like breaking mirrors. They are soft creatures with no armor. How can they move so quickly? Zilmoth looked up from his instruments, with crystal eyes wide with something the Valthari rarely felt. Fear. Commander, these humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered before. They are not charging our positions with superior strength. They are not using better technology than ours. Then how are they winning? Vexver demanded. They are thinking, Zilmoth said quietly. They are adapting their tactics in real time. They are coordinating complex attacks across multiple positions simultaneously. Our computer models cannot predict their next move, because they keep changing their strategy. Another explosion rocked the base as Jungkook's team detonated their second set of charges, taking out the alien vehicle repair facility. Sir, a soldier reported, the humans have taken out our transport maintenance center, and somehow they knew exactly where to hit us to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. 4. The first time in their long history of conquests, the Valthari were not just being attacked. They were being hunted by a species that had learned to turn intelligence and adaptability into the deadliest weapons in the universe. 3 weeks had passed since the first human attack, and the Amazon jungle had become a living nightmare for the Valthari forces. Commander Vexver stood in his command center, watching his crystal soldiers move like frightened children, instead of the proud warriors they once were. Red emergency lights flashed constantly now, and half of his equipment screens showed only static or error messages. Sir, we have lost contact with Patrol Group 7, reported a communications officer, his crystal voice shaking with fear. That is the 3rd patrol today, Dexver said, his own voice betraying the confusion that ate at his mind like acid. Where are they going? How are the humans making entire squads of our soldiers simply disappear? The answer came from Major Taeyang, who sat in a hidden bunker 50 kilometers away, surrounded by electronic equipment that hummed and beeped in the darkness. His team had been working around the clock to understand how Velthari soldiers talked to each other. Increase the interference on frequency band 7, Taeyang ordered his technician. Make their radio chatter sound like screaming metal. The carefully designed sound waves shot through the air and crashed into the alien communication systems like invisible hammers. Velthari soldiers trying to call for help heard only horrible static mixed with sounds that made their crystal bodies vibrate with pain. Command, this is Patrol 6. We need backup. A Velthari scout tried to radio from deep in the jungle, but all he heard back was a sound like breaking glass mixed with human voices, speaking in languages that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Scout. Kethanel pressed himself against a large tree, his crystal form glowing with terror. They are everywhere, he whispered to the two soldiers with him. In the trees above us, in the ground beneath our feet, maybe even inside our own base. His fear was not wrong. At that very moment, Corporal Chae-Young was crawling through the ventilation system directly above the alien command center. She had been living inside the metal air ducts for 2 weeks, moving like a ghost through the spaces between walls. Chae-Young knew every room in the alien base now. She had watched their guard rotations, mapped their weapon storage areas, and learned which systems were most important to their survival. Every night, she made small changes, disconnecting a wire here, placing a listening device there, or leaving a small explosive charge where it would cause maximum damage. Target identified, she whispered into her throat microphone as she watched Thexfer through a ventilation grate. The big crystal one with the fancy armor is definitely their leader. But the humans were not content to simply hide and strike from shadows. They were learning to use Velthari technology faster than the aliens thought possible. Engineer Yoongi sat in his workshop, surrounded by pieces of captured alien equipment. Crystal fragments, energy weapon parts, and computer components covered every surface like a technological puzzle. His hands moved quickly as he connected wires and tested circuits. This should not be possible, he muttered to himself as he successfully fired a captured Velthari energy rifle for the 10th time. Their science said it would take us decades to figure this out, but these things work on pretty simple principles. Yoongi had discovered that Velthari technology was powerful but not complex. The aliens had built their tools to last for thousands of years, which meant they were designed to be simple and reliable. What the Velthari saw as primitive human intelligence, Yoongi saw as an advantage. Humans were used to fixing broken things quickly and making tools work in ways they were never designed for. Command, this is Yoongi, he said into his radio. I have successfully modified 12 of their energy weapons for human use, and I think I know how to overload their shield generators. The news got even worse for the Velthari when Sergeant Wendy reported from her position inside a captured alien shuttle. Sir, you need to see this, Wendy said as her fingers moved across the alien control panel. I have cracked their navigation computer. I know where every Velthari ship is positioned, all their supply routes, and even the location of their home worlds. She looked up from the glowing alien controls with a smile that would have terrified any Velthari who saw it. They have no idea we can read their star maps now. Back in the alien command center, Vexfer received another report that made his crystal form tremble with something he had never experienced: helplessness. Commander, the humans have captured Outpost 3, a soldier reported. But sir, they did not just destroy it. They took everything: weapons, equipment, computer files. They are learning from us. Science Officer Zilmoth looked up from his instruments with eyes that reflected pure terror. Commander, I have been analyzing human attack patterns for weeks. These creatures are not just intelligent. They are adapting and learning faster than our computers can track. What do you mean? Nexfer demanded. They are predators, sir, Zilmouth said quietly. Not like the animals we cataloged when we first arrived. These humans are apex predators that have learned to hunt with their minds instead of their claws. And now they are hunting us. Through the jungle night, the sound of human voices could be heard on captured Velthari radios, speaking in calm, coordinated tones as they planned their next strike. The hunters had become the hunted, high above Earth. In the cold darkness of space, Fleet Commander Hexatron stared out through the crystal windows of his massive warship. His huge form cast rainbow shadows across the bridge as emergency lights flashed all around him. Sir, we have multiple contacts approaching from Earth's surface, his sensor officer reported, his crystal voice cracking with fear. But these are impossible readings. The signatures match our own shuttle designs. Hexatron's ancient mind struggled to process what he was seeing on the tactical displays. 3 months ago, the humans had been throwing primitive metal bullets that bounced off Velthari's shields like raindrops. Now bright dots were rising from Earth's atmosphere, moving with the smooth precision that only Velthari technology could achieve. How many of our shuttles did we lose to surface operations? Hexatron asked, though he already feared the answer. 17, sir. All presumed destroyed or captured during ground combat. But the ships approaching his fleet were not destroyed. They had been taken, studied, and somehow made to work by creatures the Velthari had dismissed as soft-bodied animals. Just months before, Captain Jinwoo sat in the pilot seat of what had once been a Velthari transport vessel. The alien controls felt strange under his human hands, but he and his team had spent weeks learning every button, every switch, every system. Around him, other members of Earth's newly formed defense corps worked at stations designed for crystal beings, their faces lit by the soft glow of alien displays. This is Captain Jinwoo of the Earth Defense Corps. He broadcast on the frequency humans had learned to use. Fleet Commander Hexatron, you and your ships have 30 minutes to begin leaving Earth's orbit. Any vessel that stays here after that time will be treated as an enemy target. The words hit Hexatron like physical blows. A species that 6 months ago had been firing metal projectiles was now giving him ultimatums in space. His massive crystal form began to shake as the full weight of his failure crashed down on him. Sir, how do we respond? Asked his communications officer. Should we prepare the main weapons for combat? Hexatron looked at his tactical display and felt something he had never experienced in 300 years of space warfare complete. Helplessness. The human ships were few in number, but they were moving in patterns that made no logical sense to Velthari military doctrine. Instead of forming the rigid battle lines that every civilized species used, they spread out like hunting wolves, approaching from different angles at different speeds. Sir, the human vessels are broadcasting our own security codes, another officer reported. They have complete access to our communication networks and navigation systems. How is this possible? Hexatron whispered. The answer was floating in space just a few kilometers away, where Sergeant Wendy had spent the last month living aboard a captured Velthari heavy cruiser. She had not just learned to pilot the alien vessel, she had improved it. Human engineers had modified the ship's weapons, increased its speed, and reprogrammed its computers to work better than the original Velthari designers had ever imagined. Earth Defense Command, this is Sergeant Wendy, aboard the captured vessel Moonlight, she reported over the radio. I have the alien fleet's complete battle plans uploaded to my computer. They have no tactical surprises left. Back on Hexatron's flagship, panic spread through the crystal corridors like wildfire. Officers who had conquered dozens of worlds now cowered at their stations, watching displays that showed humans doing impossible things with Velthari technology. Fleet Commander, came a terrified voice from the engine room. The humans have somehow taken control of our jump drive calculations. If we try to escape, they will know exactly where we are going. Hexatron realized with horrible clarity that his species had made the greatest mistake in their long history. They had treated Earth like a zoo, cataloging the tigers and sharks and bears while completely missing the apex predator that ruled them all. All ships, he broadcast to his remaining fleet, his voice heavy with defeat, begin immediate withdrawal procedures. Move to safe jump distance, and prepare for emergency departure. But before his ships could escape into hyperspace, Hexatron had one last duty to perform. He activated the long-range communication system and began recording a message that would travel faster than light across the galaxy to every Valthari colony and outpost. This is Fleet Commander Hexatron, with an urgent warning to all Valthari forces. He began, his voice echoing through space. We were completely wrong about the third planet of the Sol system. We catalogued Earth's wildlife and saw only weak creatures with soft skin and no natural weapons. But we missed the real apex predator. He paused, looking one last time at the human ships that now controlled Earth's orbit. The humans did not just survive on a world full of dangerous predators. They conquered every single one. Then they built cities on top of their bones. They are hunters who never give up, tool makers who learn faster than evolution, and pack hunters who work together like one giant mind. Mark this system as forbidden territory. Warn all colonies. The humans are no longer trapped on their planet. They have our ships now, and they are coming to the stars. As the last Valthari vessel disappeared into hyperspace, Colonel Namjoon stood on the bridge of humanity's first starship, looking out at the infinite field of stars that stretched away into the darkness. "Where should we go first, sir?" asked Lieutenant Jenny from the navigation station. Namjoon smiled, with the same expression his ancestors had worn when they became the dominant species on a planet full of creatures, bigger, stronger, and more naturally armed than they were. "Everywhere," he said simply. "We have a whole galaxy to explore."